welcome to this episode of the Dirty Airphone Podcast. My name is Matthew Kane. Thank you for joining me today. In this episode, I'm going to do two things. First, I'll walk you through the key changes for 2026, what's actually different, and why it matters. Then, I'm going to take you through my Drivers' Championship predictions, from 22nd place all the way up to first. But before we get going, I'd ask that if you enjoy this content, please don't forget to like, follow, and share it with your fellow F1 friends. Let's start with the regulations. The heart of the 2026 reset is the power unit. Formula One has moved to a 50-50 split between internal combustion and electrical power. The MGU-H is gone, but now the MGU-K has become a complete animal. We're talking about nearly triple the electrical deployment compared to the early hybrid era. That means battery management, harvesting, and deployment strategies are all now as important as tire strategies. You don't just manage rubber anymore, you're managing energy. Engine manufacturers like Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, Audi, Cadillac's Ferrari-based unit, Red Bull powertrains have all had to rethink how they build an engine for a car that's lighter, shorter, and more aerodynamically active. You can't just bolt on power on a chassis and feel like you're going to catch up. Aston Martin, Honda, GP2. We won't go there. The integration between the engine and the battery and the aerodynamics now is tighter than ever. And that brings us to active aero. For the first time, Formula One has fully integrated active aerodynamics. Think of it as DRS evolved. The front and rear wings now adjust dynamically, closing up in the corners for maximum downforce, then flattening out in the straights, vastly reducing the drag and increasing the acceleration. The result is higher top speeds, more overtaking opportunities, and cars that are much more on a knife's edge when they transition from one aerodynamic state to another. Drivers who thrive on feel, who can dance with a car that's moving underneath them, they're going to shine. Drivers who need a planted rear end and a predictable platform are going to suffer. On top of that, the cars themselves are smaller and lighter. Shorter wheelbase, a narrower track, and around 30 kilos less mass. That means more rotation, more agility, and more mistakes. You're going to see now more snap oversteer, more saves, and more spins. The margin between on the limit and over the edge is now thinner than ever before. Theoretically, it all sounds good, yet the drivers are not convinced. Max in particular has been very vocal regarding his dislike for the new power regulations, comparing it to Formula E on steroids. The main issue seems to be the turbo systems. The four-cylinder internal combustion engine must maintain a certain window of RPM to keep the turbo spinning at its optimum window. This reduces turbo lag. The drivers are having to use the braking system to charge the battery while finding a way to keep revs up for the turbo. This means taking corners in a gear less than usual. Sadly, this also means slower cornering speeds. Cornering is what separates the greats from the superstars. Doesn't sound very promising, does it? I'm hoping for the best, but I do fear a few of the whispers out there after preseason testing. Reliability isn't just nice to have, it's a championship deciding factor. Finally, we have a new name on the grid, Cadillac. An American manufacturer stepping into Formula One with Ferrari power, a serious budget, and a clear intent to make a statement. They're not here to be a backmarker. They're here to build something. They have two proven race winners driving for them. Their experience with championship-winning teams is invaluable. Sergio remains immensely popular globally, while Valtteri is the consummate professional, with a playful, funny side to him that is always good for team morale. It's going to be a long season, the longest in history, in fact, and that after the shortest break in history. Endurance will definitely play a role in who succeeds and who suffers this year. If you were far behind at the start, 2026 will feel like the season from hell. So there you have it. New engines, active aero, smaller cars, a longer season, and a new team. And in that environment, we drop this grid a mix of world champions, nearly world champions, seasoned veterans, and a promising rookie. It's now time for me to levitate and predict the outcome of the 2026 Drivers' Championship, from 22nd to 1st. And we're starting with a little bit of a shock. And I'm actually being serious here. Last year, if you can actually believe it, I was thinking about placing a wager on Lance Stroll winning a race in 2026. Think about it, all the ingredients were in place, right? Adrian Newey joins the team, etc., etc. And after his preseason testing, unfortunately, my prediction of Lance Stroll winning a race in 2026 has gone from that to him finishing in last place. And we're starting there. In 22nd place, for Aramco Aston Martin, Canadian Lance Stroll. Aston Martin, powered by Honda, led by Adrian Newey as team principal. On paper, this should be the dream. Lawrence Stroll has spared no expenses. A brand new factory, one of the best wind tunnels in the world, a recruitment drive that pulled talent from Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and beyond, and then the masterstroke, bringing in Newey, the man whose cars have defined an entire eras of dominance. Add to that a full works partnership with Honda, a manufacturer with a proven track record. During the turbo hybrid era, this was supposed to be the year Aston Martin finally stepped into the inner circle of the top of the grid. Instead, it becomes a disaster. Honda arrives with a fundamental vibration issue in the power unit. At high deployment, the oscillations are so severe that they damage the battery and its surrounding components. Not occasionally, consistently. The team can't complete a race. Certainly can't complete a race distance. They can't even compete in long practice runs. By the time we get to Australia, the expectation is the Aston Martin will complete the formation lap and then retire both cars. And in the middle of this, Lance Stroll, a driver who has spent his entire career under the microscope, the son of the team owner, accused of being a pay driver, questioned at every step, even when he's delivered strong performances, in the wet, on street circuits, and under certain pressure conditions. For once, he finally has everything around him: the facilities, the personnel, the engine partnership, the technical leadership, and a fantastic teammate. This was his chance to prove that. Given the right tools, he could stand with his peers on merit. Instead, he's strapped into a car that simply cannot finish a race. His season becomes a sequence of DNFs, non-starts, and compromised weekends that turn into test sessions. And the narrative, unfairly, lands on him again. This isn't a failure of effort. It's not even a failure of talent. It's a failure of machinery, a failure of engineering, a failure of expectation. And for Lance Stroll, it becomes the lowest point of his Formula One career. Finishing in 21st place, also racing for Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, a two-time world champion, a driver many consider one of the most complete racers in the sport, even in his 40s. Alonso has been able to extract performances from cars that had no business being near the front. He's built a legacy on defiance, defying age, defying machinery, defying circumstance. He came into this project believing he had one more shot, one more chance to fight for wins, maybe even an outside chance at a title, with a team that had finally assembled the right ingredients: Newey, Honda, a serious budget, and a clear vision. Instead, he finds himself trapped in a season where the car is fundamentally broken. The vibration issue doesn't just rob them of performance, it robs them of hope. Every weekend becomes a test session. Every race is a question of how far can we get before something breaks. And this is his final year. There's no next project. There's no next team. No next rebuild. This is the last chapter of one of the greatest careers in Formula One history. And it ends not with a title fight, not with a heroic underdog story, but with a mechanical whimper. For Alonso, that's the cruelest ending imaginable. For Honda, it's utter humiliation. A manufacturer returning to the sport with championship ambitions only to deliver the most unreliable power unit of the modern era. For Lawrence Stroll, it's a catastrophe. He's not a man who accepts failure lightly. And this is his failure on the biggest possible stage. Aston Martin finishes last. Alonso and Stroll sit 21st and 22nd in the standings, and the fallout from this season will echo forever in F1 history. And things couldn't get any worse. Iran just bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia. I just can't imagine things getting worse for the green team. In 20th place, driving for Cadillac, Sergio Perez. Perez moves to Cadillac, the new American entry on the grid powered by Ferrari. On paper, it's a smart move, a fresh project, a manufacturer with serious backing, a chance to step out of Max Verstappen's shadow at last, and become the experienced co-leader of a new team. But the reality of being a new team in a brand new regulation era is brutal. Cadillac has the resources, but it doesn't have the systems yet. No matter how much money you spend, you can't buy time. You can't buy experience. With this specific car, this specific engine, and this specific aero concept, Perez has built his reputation on tire management, racecraft, and the ability to survive chaos. He's a driver who can turn a bad Saturday into a good Sunday. But in 2026, the car simply doesn't give him enough to work with. The Ferrari-based power unit is solid, but the integration with the chassis is still immature. The team is learning on the job regarding cooling, packaging, how to make the aero effective. They're not a disaster. They're not Aston Martin, but they're definitely not ready to fight the established midfield either. Perez unfortunately spends most of his return season at the back of the grid. Occasionally he might tiptoe around the top 10 when strategy and attrition align. But the days of podiums and race wins are gone for now. Checo is now a veteran, shepherding a new team through its growing pains. And for a driver who once fought for wins in a Red Bull, that's a hard reality to swallow. Finishing in 19th place, also for Cadillac, Valtteri Bottas. Bottas joins Perez at Cadillac, bringing with him years of experience from Williams, Mercedes, and Alfa Romeo Sauber. He's calm, technically sharp, and excellent at feedback. If you're building a new team, he's exactly the kind of driver you want in the garage. But like Perez, he's limited by the machinery. Cadillac is not a bad car. It's just incomplete. It might show flashes of pace, especially on certain circuits where the Ferrari power unit can stretch its legs. But over a season, it will lack the consistency and refinement of the established teams. Bottas does what Bottas always does. He delivers solid, professional performances, rarely makes big mistakes, and he brings the car home. He helps the engineers understand what the car is doing, what it needs, and where it's weak. But in a field this competitive, solid isn't enough to drag a new team into the midfield. He finishes just ahead of Perez in the standings, but both of them they're on the wrong side of the results sheet more often than not. Finishing in 18th place, driving for Racing Bulls, the rookie Arvid Lindblad. Lindblad steps into Formula One with Racing Bulls, the Red Bull Junior team powered by the same Red Bull powertrains unit as the senior squad. He's young, fast, and extremely highly rated. But 2026 is a brutal environment for a rookie. The cars are more unstable. The energy management is more complex. Even 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, 8-time world champion, 8-time, was quoted as saying that you need a university degree to understand these cars. The competition is deep, deeper than ever maybe. Lindblad has raw speed, and that's not in question. He has shown it in qualifying, especially on tracks where confidence and commitment are rewarded. Finishing 18th isn't a failed rookie season. It's a learning one. He will have his moments that make people sit up and take notice. A bold overtake here, a wet weather performance there. But the final points tally leaves him beaten by his teammate. In 17th place, driving for Alpine, Franco Colapinto. Colapinto at Alpine, now running Mercedes power, is one of those quietly fascinating stories. Alpine, however, is in a strange place. They've had years of instability at the management level, and while the Mercedes engine is a step forward, the chassis isn't fully optimized around it yet, despite the fact that they mailed it in pretty early last season. I expect the car will be inconsistent. Strong. Yeah, strong at a few circuits, but perhaps anonymous at others. Colapinto splashed on the scene and was an immediate hot commodity, he also comes with serious financial backing. His performance really tapered off last year after Alpine quit on the 2025 car and began to focus on the new regulations. Drive to Survive has revealed some tense interactions between Franco and team principal, Flavio Briatore. I don't know about you. I was amazed at how well Franco handled himself. If you've not seen it yet, I won't spoil any more of it for you. Colapinto this year just needs to keep his head down and learn. He should have a couple of standout weekends where everything clicks. The car, the balance, the strategy, the conditions perhaps, and he scores important points. But over the course of the season, he's fighting the car as much as he's fighting the competition. He finishes 17th in my mind, but with enough evidence to suggest that in a better car, he could have done better. Finishing in 16th place, Esteban Ocon. Haas, now powered by Ferrari, are a team to watch in my opinion. I think they may be the surprise of the midfield. Ocon is the experienced anchor of the team that has spent years trying to stabilize itself. Haas has always operated on the edge, limited resources, limited development, and a tendency to fall backwards over the course of the season. In 2026, in my opinion, I think they're better prepared. Gunter Steiner may be a fan favorite, but I think the fruits of Haas deciding to go in a different direction are about to be revealed. Ocon will do what Ocon does. He'll fight hard. Perhaps sometimes too hard. He'll get the car into Q2 and perhaps occasionally Q3. I think he'll score points when the opportunity is there as well. Esteban, once managed by Toto Wolff, was part of the Mercedes Junior program, don't forget. He was in line to replace Valtteri Bottas once he was ready. Instead, unfortunately for him, a young man at Williams quickly earned himself the nickname Mr. Saturday and took his spot before he knew what happened. After a tumultuous time alongside Fernando Alonso at Alpine, he was then joined by Pierre Gasly, his boyhood friend and rival. Despite being a race winner, Esteban seems to be drifting further away from the front of the grid with each and every passing season. He finishes 16th ahead of the rookies, ahead of the rookie, and ahead of the struggling veterans, but behind the drivers and teams that have simply executed better. This result may end up being the very last we see of Esteban in Formula One. Finishing in 15th place is Liam Lawson. Lawson and the Racing Bulls is one of the most underrated stories last season in my opinion. After a dreadful start with the big team, he was quickly demoted. Some say too quickly. Regardless, I was very impressed with how quickly he bounced back. Not too many drivers recover that fast. Confidence is everything at this level, and he was seriously shook. And now he isn't. The RB car is not a world beater, but it's competent. The Red Bull powertrain unit seems to be quite good after preseason testing, and the chassis is good enough to fight in the lower midfield. Lawson's strength is his racecraft. He's considered a bit of a wild card when racing with. I think he'll work hard on this. I think he'll work hard on his decision-making and his racing style. No doubt he has experienced enough by now to be better prepared going into the season. Preparation will be key in 2026, especially to maintain the level he needed to stand out in this field. He finishes 15th, but with a reputation enhanced, if a seat opens up higher up on the grid, I think his name will be in the conversation. Finishing in 14th place, for Haas as well, is Oliver Behrman. We already had a taste of what he can do from his earlier stand-in appearances and his outstanding rookie season. I did not expect him to beat Ocon. Did you? The Haas isn't a top car, but it's stable enough to let him express his talents. Behrman's strength is his confidence, especially under braking, and his ability to commit to high-speed corners. He's not intimidated by the established names around him as well. I expect him to have a few good weekends this year, where he absolutely outshines the machinery, dragging the car into Q3, fighting for points, and making bold overtakes that get replayed on highlight reels all over the world. He will also have overzealous moments, in my opinion, lockups, track limits, a misjudged move here and there, but that's all part of the process at this point. The instructions are simple. Continue to learn all that you need to. Stay fit. Stay focused. Ferrari's watching. Ollie finishes 14th, and everyone watching knows that this is a driver with a long future in F1. Finishing in 13th place for Alpine is my main man, Pierre Gasly. Gasly at Alpine has certainly been a study in frustration. He's been quick. He's experienced. He's capable of podium-level performances when he's given the right car. And in fact, he's a proven race winner when all the stars align. I'm certainly curious to see, with the addition of the Mercedes power plant in the back of that car, how competitive they're going to be this year. I would certainly love it for Pierre. He's got a long time driving a lot of dogs. Yeah, funny. There's got to be a reason why he's never been given a chance with a big team. I mean, by all accounts, he's the most popular guy on the grid amongst his peers. I've never been able to figure it out. Maybe that's why I call my main man Pierre Gasly. Hopefully he does figure it out and returns to winning ways, just like he did at Monza. Gasly's finish in 13th might feel like an underachievement. His contract extension till 2028 keeps him on the grid and relevant. The big question I have is, how many more years does Pierre want to spend in a project that never quite delivers on its promises? Finishing in 12th place, driving for Atlassian Williams, Alex Albon. Albon at Williams, with Mercedes power, continues to be one of the most quietly impressive drivers on the grid. Williams has been on an upward trajectory ever since he joined. Despite team principal James Vowles openly admitting the team was already focused on 2026 back in 2024, Williams missed the first test session this year. Rumors had the car failing crash tests as they feverishly worked to reduce the weight to meet the FIA regulations. A positive second test lifted the team's spirits. James Vowles successfully navigated his highest tightrope walk so far in his young team principal career. The car is not a frontrunner, but it's no longer a backmarker. It's a genuine midfield machine, and in Albon's hands, I think it'll often look better than this. His strength is his ability to adapt to whatever the car is doing underneath him. If the rear is loose, he lives with it. If the front won't bite, he finds a way to rotate the car anyway. He's calm on the radio, sharp in traffic, and rarely makes big errors. He finishes 12th, but with performances that in a top car would probably translate into a podium. Finishing in 11th place, driving for Audi, is Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg at Audi is one of those pairings that just made sense from the get-go. Audi is methodical, structured, and serious about its long-term project. Hülkenberg is experienced, technically astute, and still very fast over one lap. The Audi power unit is strong, right out of the gate, and the chassis appears solid. They're not ready to fight for wins, but they're a proper midfield team, right from the start. Hülkenberg becomes the reference point. He's the one engineers trust when they're evaluating those upgrades. He'll be the one who will deliver a lap time when they need to know exactly what that car can do. He finishes 11th, just outside the top 10. But his value to the team goes far beyond the points he scores. In 10th place, the smooth operator, also for Atlassian Williams, Carlos Sainz. After a few years of mature, measured driving, Ferrari decided to send Carlos packing to make way for Lewis Hamilton. The decision came as a complete surprise to him and his management team. Rumors swirled about potential opportunities. Red Bull, Mercedes, Audi all seemed to be knocking on the door. Audi especially, considering their connection to his father and the success they had in rally racing. James Vowles really did pull a rabbit out of the hat by signing him. Whether he chose Williams by choice or by merit will probably never be known. Carlos is a proven race winner, a driver with a reputation for intelligence, adaptability, and he's certainly calm under pressure. He is a huge asset to Williams at this point in their rebuild, a welcome surprise from the racing gods for this fabled racing team. With Mercedes power and a more refined chassis, Williams gives Sainz a platform that's not quite front-running, but definitely competitive. Sainz doesn't have the raw pace advantage he enjoyed at times in Ferrari, but he has the freedom to help lead a project. He's the type of driver who brings home points almost every weekend. He's not always spectacular, but he's almost always there. I think he finishes 10th. A solid, respectable season that reinforces his reputation as one of the most complete drivers on the grid. Finishing in 9th place, also driving for Audi, Gabriel Bortoleto. Bortoleto at Audi will be the breakout story of the midfield, in my opinion, this year. He's quick, composed, and very comfortable at this level already. What stands out about Bortoleto is his race intelligence. He doesn't just drive fast, he understands how to build a race. This is very impressive for a driver at this stage of his career. Listening to him work with his engineer last year became abundantly clear. He has a great racing brain. He knows when to push, when to save, when to commit to an undercut, when to extend a stint. In a car that's good but not great, he should produce a couple of standout results. I think that'll definitely make people sit up and take notice. I believe he finishes ninth in the championship ahead of more experienced names, including his manager, Fernando Alonso, and firmly establishes himself as one of the rising stars in the sport. Finishing in 8th place, driving for Red Bull, Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar in the senior Red Bull team is a baptism of fire. He certainly has come a long way since his first race in F1 last year, when he failed to complete the formation lap spinning off the slick surface in Australia. In only his second year, he is now part of the big team at Red Bull. But let's not forget, that team's been built around Max. A team that expects to be competitive every single weekend. A team that expects excellence. A team that has proven quick to pull the trigger when a situation seems to be souring. Luckily for him, the Red Bull powertrains unit appears strong, and I expect that car to be one of the strongest still on the grid. Unfortunately for Hadjar, the gremlins during testing seemed to happen when he was at the wheel. I think I might have placed him a touch higher. Yeah, I would have placed him a little bit higher had he had a bit more time testing in the car to get acclimated. Hadjar's job is not to be beating Verstappen week in and week out. It's to be close enough to matter. He may have a few rough weekends early on, to be expected. But once he settles in, his speed will be undeniable. He qualifies well, races hard, and delivers when the team needs him to pick up points that Verstappen's previous teammates couldn't. He finishes 8th, which in this context is a very strong result. Finishing in 7th place, driving for Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli at Mercedes is the future, arriving in real time. The hype around him is enormous, and it's justified. The 2026 Mercedes might just be the class of the field. The power unit is efficient, the chassis works well with the active aero, and the team has learned from the mistakes of the early ground effect era. I believe Antonelli's season is a tale of two halves. Early on, he still makes some rookie mistakes. He might misjudge a few battles, a couple of spins here or there, still pushing the limits of the car underneath him. But once he finds his feet, he's electric. He will qualify closer to Russell, and more often. He will race with more composure. He definitely will be more competitive at the front. He starts to look a little bit less like a rookie, and a little bit more like a future world champion. I was lucky enough to attend the Canadian Grand Prix last year, which happened to be Kimi's first podium. The crowd chanted, "Kimi, Kimi." It felt like a magical moment. He finishes 7th, but by the end of the year, nobody is talking about that number. They're all talking about what he's going to do next. Finishing in 6th place, driving for McLaren, Oscar Piastri. Piastri at McLaren with Mercedes power continues his trajectory as one of the most precise clinical drivers on the grid. He doesn't waste laps. He doesn't waste opportunities. The McLaren is a very good car in 2026 in my opinion, but not quite the best anymore. He's still absolutely capable of fighting at the front on the right weekend. Piastri uses this platform to deliver a season full of strong, controlled, measured performances. He's not as emotionally as expressive as some of his peers, but that's part of his strength. He's unflappable. When chaos erupts around him, he just keeps hitting his marks. He finishes 6th, and you get the sense that with just a little more performance, especially from the car, he could easily have been in title contention. After a year where he led the championship for a stretch, 2026 will feel a little flat for Piastri fans. Finishing in 5th place, defending Formula One world champion, driving for McLaren, Lando Norris. Norris is the emotional core of Team McLaren. He's been there through the rebuild, through the pain, and the near misses. He carried the weight of expectation from fans who believed he should have already had won multiple races many times over long before he did and break through in Miami. The 2025 champion has a car that, on its day, will fight for wins. And he will deliver. He will lead races, and he will win. He will win weekends where he looks like he's the best driver on the grid, but over a full season, the consistency won't be there. Mostly from the car, I think. A couple of strategic missteps, perhaps a few missteps with his own teammate again. A couple of weekends where the car just doesn't switch on, a couple of small errors that in a title fight become too big to overcome. He finishes fifth. A strong season, but still short of the ultimate goal. A disappointing year for McLaren overall, almost like the air slowly escaping from a balloon. And for Lando, despite his championship, the narrative about him doesn't change for me. Is he as good as they think? Is he really on Max's level? I say not. Finishing in fourth place, driving for Red Bull, Max Verstappen. This is where the 2026 story really takes a twist. Verstappen has been the benchmark of the sport for the past few years. His combination of raw speed, ruthless racecraft, and relentless intensity has defined his era, perhaps even his generation. But the 2026 regulations have changed the landscape. The Red Bull powertrains package seems to be very strong after preseason testing, but I no longer think it's the class of the field. The active aero concept they've pursued is aggressive, and when it works, it's shown to be devastatingly fast. But it's also more sensitive to conditions, to wind, track temperature. Despite all this, Verstappen probably will still win races. We've all actually seen that on his day, he's proven to be untouchable. But there are more days now where the car isn't going to be quite there, where the balance isn't quite right, where the energy deployment strategy doesn't quite give him all the tools he needs to fight at the front, and yet he'll fight at the front. He drags results out of weekends that should have been far, far worse. He'll still look like a champion, but over a full season, he won't have the machinery. I've been very vocal and clear in my opinions of his racing style. Max has done some of the most stupidest things I've ever seen in a race car, just like some of the champions before him. He has resorted to tactics that are not only unsporting, but are life-threateningly dangerous in certain circumstances. Having said that, he's also driven at a skill level that no one else on the grid seems to be able to understand or cope with. He brings half a second to the table each and every race weekend. Not many in history have been able to say that. If he stays motivated the entire year, he finishes fourth, far better than the car deserves. Finishing in third place, driving for Mercedes, George Russell. Russell at Mercedes is one of the biggest winners as a result of the new 2026 regulations. And if preseason tested is anything to go by, the car certainly suits him. The active aero, the lighter chassis, the more agile platform seems to all be playing into George's strengths. He's always been quick over one lap, but in 2026 I believe his racecraft and tire management will take another step forward. He's going to become more complete, more measured, and Mercedes as a team will execute better around him. They're not perfect, but they'll be sharper on strategy, strong on reliability, and effective in development. Russell benefits from that stability, and as a result, he'll win races. He'll continue to lead the team on weekends where young Kimi is just not in position. He finishes third in the championship and firmly establishes himself as one of the elite drivers of this era. If not for Ferrari, I believe George wins this year's driver's title. And there are others that agree with that. There are others that just pick him to win. Surprisingly, I see something that no one else seems to be mentioning. Many of George is this year's favorite, as I just stated. But in order to win a championship, you need a teammate that isn't beating you, but they're beating everyone else. Taking valuable points from them while you build your gap at the top. Kimi's not ready to do this for George. And George will suffer the consequences as a result. Finishing in second place and driving for Scuderia Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton at Ferrari is one of the most iconic images of modern Formula One. The seven-time world champion, seven-time world champion, finally in red. It still doesn't feel real, even after a full season. Perhaps it's because it was Lewis's worst season in F1 ever, and I've already done my best to forget it. But what matters is this. This isn't a farewell tour. That's not why he's there. Lewis is there to win. officially number 8. The 2026 Ferrari, boy, after preseason testing, looks to be quite a weapon. The power unit is strong. Some would say strong as steel. The chassis works beautifully with the active aero. Suggestions have the rotisserie rear wing giving them 10 kilometers advantage on the straightaways, hence why they took it off after only 5 laps, as to not reveal too much for the opposition. Doesn't matter anyways. It's too late for the teams to incorporate a similar system. If it works, it may be beneficial to Ferrari's chances this year. And crucially, the front end gives Hamilton what he's always wanted: precision. Off the track, his life is as high profile as ever. He's a global icon, constantly in the headlines, constantly in the spotlight. I think this will be the difference why Lewis finishes second and not first. Rumors about his personal life, who he's dating, where he's going, what he's doing, they never seem to stop. The world just doesn't want to leave Lewis Hamilton alone to do what he needs to do. But when the visor comes down, none of all that matters. It all comes down to him. With a renewed outlook, I believe he delivers a season that reminds everyone exactly who he is. He wins multiple races. He manages tires, energy, and pressure like the veteran and champion that he is. He pushes the title fight deep into the season, but in the end, he finishes second. I do see Sir Lewis pivoting towards the end of the season to focus on Charles in an effort to assist him win his first world title. I can't think of a better wingman. Can you? And at long last, your 2026 Formula One World Driver Champion is, driving for Scuderia Ferrari, Mr. Charles Leclerc. The baby-faced Monegasque is finally given a Ferrari worthy of his talents. Imagine that. This is a driver who's carried the weight of Ferrari's expectation for years. He's always had the speed. He's had the qualifying laps that have made us all shake our head. He's had the raw instinctive feel for the car that only the greats have had, constantly reminding us of another famous Ferrari driver, Mr. Gilles Villeneuve. I've said it before and I'll still stand by it. Charles is Gilles reborn. Here to win the title he was supposed to win in 82 and perhaps could have won in 79. 26 is the year that this all comes into fruition. The keys to all this happening, though, are all in areas where Ferrari have been laughably bad at recent years. This is what gives me pause. Am I being seduced by Ferrari to believe in the impossible dream? It's entirely possible. I've been a suffering Toronto Maple Leaf fan for over 4 decades, so anything's possible. I haven't exactly always shown clear judgment. Ferrari need reliability, good strategy, rigorous development, and internal stability. This is where a veteran team leader like Fred Vasseur comes into play. From what I saw in testing, Ferrari's delivered a car that is fast, consistent, and kind to its tires. The power unit is efficient, incorporating a smaller turbo than their competitors. This has reduced the need to downshift to build revs through corners, drastically reduces turbo lag, and gives them a clear advantage at race starts. A new rear spoiler, placed in the front of the exhaust pipe, directs hot air upwards towards the rear wing, increasing rear stability, a key component when downshifting this year, trying to keep the turbos revved. This was a serious issue for their 2025 car, and the main reason Lewis struggled so mightily. The team is now fully settled in under Fred Vasseur. The calmer environment is more structured and less chaotic in years past. And Leclerc himself is different. Off the track, his life has found a happy spot. He's just gotten married. Congratulations, Charles. A life-changing moment for anyone, but especially for a racing driver whose entire existence has been built around speed, risk, and obsession. That kind of stability can do one of two things. It can distract you, or it can ground you. For Leclerc, it grounds him. He's still the same explosive talent on Saturday, but on Sundays, there will be a new layer of composure. He's learned to play the long game. Over the course of the season, he will combine his natural speed with a level of maturity that we've been waiting for. And now, we're going to see it finally realized. Lewis's presence has rubbed off. It has polished a beautiful diamond. Charles will win races, and at the end of it all, he will stand as the 2026 Formula One World Champion. This is the year where promise becomes reality. The year where Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari that finally deserves him writes his name into the history books. Congratulations, Charles. And salut, Gilles. That's the end of the show, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in, especially if you've made it this far. How do you see the 2026 season panning out? I look forward to your comments below. Am I out to lunch or have I hit the mark? Only time will tell. I hope you'd enjoyed my very first video podcast. I haven't been very good at it. Make sure to take a look at the bloopers, but I've done my best. I look forward once again to rejoining the podcast foray here in the F1 family and reporting on the 2026 season on a regular basis. Also tune in to see me racing on my new racing simulator, which I will be broadcasting live on Twitch and on YouTube in the near future once I figure out how to use Streamlabs properly. But anyways, until next time, friends, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.